Hello there. Welcome to Slice of Eternity podcast. You are not a mistake because God does not make mistakes. You are so special. This podcast will stir up your imaginations and engage your soul to see the beauty and truthfulness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, to bring healing to your soul. Kindly like, share and subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date on all episodes and events. You are listening to episode 2 of Slice of Eternity. Today I'm talking on the topic, Thy rod and thy staff they comfort me. Thy rod and thy staff they comfort me. There is a temptation to think that you have heard this sentence over and over again, so you know all about it. But I want you to know that this is going to be slightly different from what you have always heard. I will encourage you at this point to do well to keep listening to the end. In episode 1, we talked about an eagle with broken wings. You can listen to episode 1 to know more in case you haven't listened to it already. In that episode, I mentioned that Moses was a man who lived with broken dreams. After fleeing from his life as a prince in Egypt, he found himself in the wilderness. He worked as a shepherd for 40 years until he encountered God, who gave him a new dream for his life. And the dream was to become the liberator and leader of the new nation called Israel. But before Moses finally agreed to embrace the new dream to undertake the divine mission of returning to Egypt in order to deliver and bring the people of Israel out of bondage, God had to perform some miraculous signs to convince Moses and strengthen his confidence in God. In Exodus chapter 4 verse 2, God asked Moses, "What do you have in your hand?" In my understanding, God was telling Moses that it is what he had in his hand that God was going to use to turn Moses' story around. All Moses had in his hand was a dry stick, which the Bible calls a rod. To Moses, it was just a staff used to direct stubborn sheep back to the pasture. But to God, it was the instrument by which great things were going to be done at the hands of Moses. The first of the miraculous signs God exhibited was the turning of Moses' shepherd staff or rod to a snake when he threw it on the ground before God. Before Moses put his rod on the ground in the sight of God, it was a mere dry wood, or better still a walking stick, with which he tended the flock of his father-in-law. However, after Moses had willingly surrendered his rod to God, it ceased to be an ordinary rod or staff. It became the rod with which God performed miracles. May I bring to your attention that whatever God touches becomes glorious. When God touched the rod of Moses, it became the rod of God which performed wonders in Egypt. When God got himself involved with a wooden cross, it brought salvation to humanity. And when God touches your rod, guess what will happen? You see, Moses had been carrying around that ordinary piece of wood for many years, and nothing dramatic had really happened. But after Moses surrendered that wooden rod to the Lord, it amazingly became the rod of God, and it did a lot of amazing things. God never took it away from his hands, but God used it in the hands of Moses to do great things. Once again, remember, when Moses willingly surrendered his rod to God, God never took it away from his hands. Yet, Moses stopped seeing it as something ordinary that belonged to him or as an ordinary shepherd's staff. Moses continued using the staff. However, he attached great importance to it and used it not for an ordinary purpose. I believe there is something in you or in your hands that God has touched. It has ceased to be ordinary. Whatever that thing is, it has become the rod of God in your hands. The rod of Moses represented his life. It symbolized his ambitions, his dream, his vocation, his wisdom, his skills, his status, his strength, his might. The rod of Moses was his identity, his instrument, his weapon or defense, especially in the wilderness. Your rod could be your voice, your passion, your creativity, your dreams, your public speaking ability, your business ideas or skills. Believe me, they are not ordinary. They are God's deposit in you to do great things in your life and in the life of others. With the rod of God in his hands, Moses did great exploits, performed signs and wonders in Egypt that confounded and humiliated Pharaoh and all the magicians and wise men in Egypt. And in fact, it ended up bringing out the children of Israel from Egypt. Thereby, Moses fulfilled his divine purpose. Perhaps you may be asking yourself what good can come out of you. Perhaps you are thinking of what you can do with your life. Perhaps you think everyone is doing something worthwhile except you. Don't look far. Look to yourself. May I remind you that there is a rod in your hand. There is a pen in your hand with which you can put your creativity to work. There is a laptop before you with which you can create something. There is an idea in you which can translate into reality and turn into money. There is creativity at your fingertips. There is such a beautiful gift in you. I just can't quite put my finger on it, but I'm convinced that there is something great sitting right on the inside of you. This ability can make you great and famous. This is the rod of God in your hands, waiting to be used for great things. When the people of Israel got to the Red Sea and realized that the Egyptians were pursuing them, they panicked. So Moses called on God for help. This is in the book of Exodus chapter 14. I thought God would perform some miracles to save them. Instead, God asked Moses why he was calling on him. God then told Moses to stretch his rod over the sea. When Moses did, the rod amazingly performed a miracle and divided the Red Sea for them to walk through on dry land. Do you see? The answer was with Moses all the while. The answer to the cry of the people of Israel was a rod in the hands of Moses, and it brought comfort to the people of Israel. The answer to the cry of many may be your creativity. The answer to my cry may be your creativity or your initiative. I ask you, what is in your hand, my friend? Money, time, possessions, influence, some kind of special God-given aptitude? You may want to start working on that business idea now or start right away. The beautiful thing is that small things can grow if we can nurture them well. As human beings, we have not only been equipped with the physical characteristics that enable us to perfectly fit into our respective environment, but each of us has also been given certain abilities and specific ways to approach and deal with the world that makes us special. Well, we call them talents. A talent is an aptitude or a group of aptitudes useful for some activities. A talent can be as a result of very different sources. For example, some people had to overcome specific hardships and struggles in their childhood, and on the way, these hardships have helped them to develop some aptitudes or creative abilities. Some others have developed an eager interest in, say, sports, arts, or other activities and could not avoid becoming masters in that field. Others were also simply born with specific attributes that induced them to develop their own special abilities. There are many ways one can make the life-changing encounter with their inner abilities or talents. That means we all have one or more special ability in us. These are our rod and our staff to comfort us in this life. You are so special, and these abilities in you can take you very far in life. These may be God-given abilities. It is the rod and staff of God in your hand, and I tell you, it is there to comfort you. And if you will be honest, the thing in your hand probably seems totally inadequate to meet the needs around you. However, you'll be amazed by what can happen when you believe God and put it to use. I'm convinced that this your ability can take you far. It is your rod and your staff, and they can bring you comfort. Psalm 23 is a very common scripture often quoted by many. There's a portion of that scripture that says, I will fear no evil, because thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Remember, we said earlier that the rod was for Moses, but when God touched it, it became the rod of God. So, there are abilities in you that if you can diligently put to work, God will amplify them to become great. Sometimes we claim to be waiting on God when in actual fact, God is waiting on us to find comfort in the rod and staff He has blessed us with. In the case of Moses, he was waiting on God for a solution. What God was also expecting him to put his ability, his creativity, in this case the rod, to use. This is what I see in the scripture in Psalm 23 verse 4. In the midst of your darkness, anxiety, brokenness, confusion, and despair, there is something in you that can bring you comfort. For Moses, the rod was a stick, For Joseph, his rod was his ability to interpret dreams. For David, it was his skills on the musical instrument. For Solomon, it was his wisdom. For Charles Dickens, it was his ability to write. For Ludwig van Beethoven, it was his skills on the piano. For Jesus, it was his love for the world, and it brought comfort to him and to the world around him. For you, it may be your voice, your writing skills, your skills on the piano, your skills on the football pitch, your dream, your ambitions, your aspirations, the way you act, the way you are skilled behind a computer. There is something great in you. These abilities and passions are your rod and your staff, and they can bring you great comfort. So now, what do I want you to do? I want you to identify something you can do or something you are passionate about. Ask yourself, what am I really good at? What do people compliment about me when I do? What am I passionate about? What is that one thing I know how to do and do so well? What is that thing I do that brings smiles to people? It may be necessary to start noting some aspirations and dreams down. It may be necessary to start writing your ideas down. Then you have to commit them into the hands of God. He will make grace available for you. Thankfully and graciously receive His gift of grace in faith and swing into action on the keyboard, on the piano, or in the studio. By all means, raise your rod like Moses did over the Red Sea. It will surprise you that these little bit of actions done in faith will translate into greatness to bring you comfort. The world is waiting on you. God is waiting on you. You are powerful than you think. This is the rod of God in your hands. This is the rod and staff of Christ in you. They are meant to bring you comfort. Start pursuing them. Start putting them to use. And in case you are lost and you need someone to talk to, don't hesitate to reach out to me on hello@sliceofeternity.com. It's hello@sliceofeternity.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of Slice of Eternity. I trust that this podcast will bless your day. Kindly like, share and subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me or engage me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram by searching for Eddie El Shaddai. You can also listen to more mind-stirring and soul-engaging episodes of Slice of Eternity on YouTube. Do well to subscribe to Slice of Eternity on YouTube. Till we meet again, remember, you are not a mistake.